Hi, my name is Ashley Salerno, and I'm going to be talking about accountability. So to start with definitions, I looked one up and then I put one in my own words. So starting with the one that I looked up from Merriam-Webster, they said that accountability is an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. And then for the one that I put in my own words, I put that being able to hold yourself and others responsible for actions and to uphold the standard that has been set. Um, so obviously accountability is very closely linked with responsibility, but it sort of has some added aspects in that responsibility. You need to be responsible for yourself, but with accountability, you also need to be responsible for other people and for their actions as well. So it's a little bit deeper than responsibility. Um, it's about keeping true to your commitments and doing what you say that you're going to do. That's kind of the basic definition of it. In terms of what it looks like in sports, like I said, doing what you say you're going to do, but it's also playing your role to the best of your ability. So, whether you're the backup goalie on a hockey team or a playmaker or a goal scorer, playing that role that you're given, that's helping the team to the best of your ability, regardless of maybe how much you like it in that moment in time, but are you willing to buy in and to play that role to the best you can? It's also about taking ownership, and I think the hardest piece is it's about being able to confront your teammates, when they aren't living up to the standards. So, can you say to someone, "Hey, you need to do a better job with this"? And that's very hard. We see it in our college athletes. It's something that's not easy to do, but it is a big part of accountability. It's not just about yourself, but can you hold others to that standard as well? And then lastly, just knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and sort of being aware of yourself is a big piece of accountability as well. Knowing what you need to get better at and knowing what you're already having success with and sort of what you can do to improve. So who needs to be accountable? And I think there's a lot of people would say the coaches are the ones who need to hold the players accountable, and it's up to them, and that's absolutely true. But there are a lot of other people that need to be able to do this as well, including the players who need to be able to hold themselves and their teammates accountable. The athletic department needs to be able to hold their coaches and the athletes in the department accountable. And then parents. So, especially in youth sports, parents need to be able to be responsible for their own behavior and to be able to, set standards for their kids and to hold them to responsible behavior as well. So just a couple of necessary precursors to accountability, in order to make it something that you and your team are able to do. Setting standards and rules at the beginning of the year is a really important part of it. Whether it's coming up with some things, saying, okay, we're going to be on time, we're not going to miss class, we're going to work hard every day. Setting those things, that way everyone knows what the standard is, what's expected, and that way you can also hold them accountable and say, this is what we decided on, you're not doing this. It's just a lot easier that way. And then also outcomes and goals. So if you can set goals, set things that you want your program to accomplish that year, it's also a lot easier to hold people accountable and to make sure that people are responsible for doing certain things because you have a very clear direction that you want your program to go in. And then just an example from one of our readings from this semester is the Season of Life book by Jeffrey Marks. And there are definitely a lot of small pieces of accountability in the book, but just kind of pointing to one example that I'll get to soon. But obviously they were very big on not exhibiting unsportsmanlike conduct, on doing things the right way, on the boys on the team being gentlemen towards their girlfriends, and not drinking and not doing drugs, and just kind of doing things the right way, being men built for others. But the quote that I pulled out from the book was, "Every fiber in his body wanted to whack that guy back," Biff said, "but he thought of us first, the team. He knew that we needed him on the field more than he needed to be kicked out of the game for fighting." Now that's senior leadership. That's a man built for others. So a lot of coaches won't necessarily put as much of an emphasis on not retaliating, but they did, and it's an example of one of the players holding himself accountable to the standard that was set, and helping his team in that way. And then another example from professional sports would be the New England Patriots and their slogan, "Do your job." So, they've obviously been very successful, and they point a lot of that to Belichick's ability to hold the players accountable and to get them to execute their assignment. So, doing their job all the time, whether it's every little play they're ready for, every game they're ready for, every opponent, and not taking everything lightly. Every player executing every job, every play, ends up making them pretty successful. And obviously trusting that their teammates are going to do the same thing is a big part that he talks about as well. So next, sorry about that. So next, are you looking out the window or are you looking in the mirror? So this is something, when something goes wrong, are you looking at the external reasons? Are you looking for someone to put blame on? Are you looking for reasons other than yourself that something happened? Or are you looking in the mirror and saying, what could I have done better? What can I change? How can I improve? And a lot of people look out the window because they don't want to take the blame. They don't want the responsibility. But the most successful people are the ones that can look in the mirror and say, what can I do better? And then just a quote that goes along with that: nothing will ever change while you point the finger of blame. Out of responsibility comes possibility. So saying the exact same thing, pointing the blame, not holding yourself accountable doesn't end up well. And then a great poem by Reverend Elizabeth Anderson called Accountability. And it's in this world of sin and shame, it's hard to know who is to blame. We become desensitized to the evil on the rise. Those beliefs we know are wrong are lived daily among the throngs. If there is no end to hate and greed, what will it take to follow God's lead? If there is evil and I give it no name, then it is I who is to blame. So it really kind of goes along with what we've been talking about. The world is full of a lot of bad things, a lot of hate and greed and crime, and we are the ones to blame if we're going to look past it. We need to be able to look and see, identify that things are wrong, and to say, okay, what can I do, or how can this change, rather than just saying, okay, that's how it is. So very important there. And then just have a movie clip here from Remember the Titans, which was obviously a very inspirational movie. But in this clip here, Gary and Julius have their confrontation, in which they talk about neither one of them, or neither the black players or the white players, holding themselves or each other accountable, and it all kind of comes out in this scene where Julius talks to Gary about the white players not blocking for the black players, and Gary talks to Julius about not him being selfish and not listening, and things like that. So just kind of shows what happens when people aren't being held accountable, and even when team standards aren't clearly identified from the beginning, because it doesn't seem like they were in this case. And then just sort of the last thing here, which is relationships, and they really do go hand in hand with accountability, because a lot of trust is necessary for both of them. So you have to have positive, healthy relationships with people in order to hold each other accountable. It's a hard thing to do, even when you are close. But if you aren't, then it's really something that's not going to be productive. So it's all about having each other's backs, working for a cause that's bigger than yourself, and you end up with some pretty special relationships. And then just for a conclusion, needing to overall, accountability. You really need to be able to look inside yourself and not to point fingers and blame other people. It's about looking inside yourself first, holding yourself accountable, and then being able to do the same for others. Another big point we talked about was doing your job and making sure that others are doing theirs as well. And then lastly, developing healthy relationships built on trust and responsibility. So, accountability is obviously very, very important in all aspects of life, but I think especially in the sports world, we have a lot of examples of how it's beneficial to the individuals and to the team. So thank you very much.